Hey everyone, welcome to Cube Reviews episode 59. This is your host Ian Braverman. Today I am joined by Jack Kerns. How you doing?
Hi, Ian. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Today was a fine day at work, just normal stuff. I started to go through my bulk as I often do and just pull out random cards to build a maybe bar cube just out of random crap that I have lying around.
You
And
never know
it's
what's
just
going
a
to
good
inspire
day.
you. Yeah.
That's how I like to build cubes. Just, oh, what stuff do I have that's not doing anything? What can I do
Yeah.
use it for?
Nice.
And yeah, we met at Kinetic Cube 2026, which was a 64-person cube event that me and Kyle Ferguson ran in February. And you were there, and the cube that we were going to be talking about today was one of the featured cubes. How did you hear about Kinetic Cube, and how did you like the event?
Yeah. First of all, the event was a blast. I had a great time. Everyone I talked to went had a great time. You and Kyle and the judges and everyone, just ran a tight ship with that. It was just really cool. And yeah, I mean, one of one of the highest highs in Magic, I think, for me is being able to like run my cube at these events. So I was really grateful that we got to do so. I don't remember how I heard about Kinetic Cube. I think maybe I was like, so I went to Vertex in
Hmm.
Philadelphia, another cube event beforehand, and I was like, oh, that was so sick. Like, what's the next one? And, just looking for other things. And there's some list somewhere that had like cube events. But yeah, if you do it again, I'll be back. I want to draft the control cube again. That was a highlight for me, actually. So if Kyle's listening, the cubes are at. I really like it.
What did you draft in the control cube?
Jessica Control, featuring Elixir of Immortality as like
Oh,
the duct tape for holding everything together. I guess I eventually would with like Jace the Mind Sculptor Ultimate, but really it was like casting Sphinx's Revelation like 4 times a game off of Elixir of Immortality that did it.
that sounds about right for you because we were just talking about how you have your Jeskai Vintage Cube. Jeskai is the best color pair, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, I love Jessica. I like Temer too, Sultai. There's some other good ones, but Jessica's the best.
I'm a Bant gamer, what can I say?
Band is sweet. Anything with blue gets a pass for me.
I'll have to get you to draft my Bant cube someday.
Sounds good.
And what's your history with Magic and Cube? Introduce yourself here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. It was, I think, 2008, 2009, middle school. Friend of mine goes to PAX East and brings back some, intro packs and explained that there's this game called Magic and there's different colors and like, a little bit about each one and kind of let me pick a pack. And, again, like middle school, 2008, I was like obsessed with My Chemical Romance. So I'm like, all right, obviously black. This is what I'm doing. I'm a black mage now. And I was like immediately hooked. Like game one, game two, I'm like, all right, this is like my new obsession. I was reflecting on this a little bit. Like I think the one card from that deck that really like set the course of like everything I love about Magic, the card Magrim. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like this
Yeah.
a 3-mana enchantment. Whenever an opponent discards a card, Magrim deals 2 damage to them.
So you were
First of all,
rude right from the beginning.
yeah, definitely. Well, kinda. So the rest of the deck was like creatures and removal. I think like corrupt was like the rare,
Oh,
quote unquote,
corrupt
right?
is so good. Just got to get a bunch of
Corrupt is
swamps.
good. Oh yeah. This was all swaps, so not a problem. And but Grim was terrible. I was like looking at this card. I'm like, this does absolutely nothing. There's like no discard in the deck. Like I could not understand like why anyone would play this. And then I came across like Mind Rot or whatever, the crappy black discard, and then I was like, oh, there's like this whole other dimension to this game, right? Other than just like creature combat and removal spells. Like you can just bypass that entirely and like win through different ways and put cards together in interesting ways and like synergy and like all this stuff, right? And I feel like that's the endless wellspring of joy for Magic for me, just like finding cool decks, cool interactions, cool cards in fun and unique ways. I think with Cube, I probably found out about Cube from like an LSV video, back in like 2010 or whatever. And
That's a pretty normal on
um,
ramp, I think.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's where I discovered Storm, which is also ever since I learned about Yawgmoth's Will too. I'm like, all right, Cube is the best format ever. Like you could cast Yawgmoth's Will, Tendrils of Agony, and Limited. Like that's just the best.
I
So
think that there's
uh,
definitely a similarity between Magrim and playing Storm. You're just nothing to do with combat, just casting some weird spells and winning the game.
oh yeah, yeah. From there, my favorite things about Magic has always been kind of the game design portion. Yeah. So, first it was like building decks, then it was building commander decks. It's like, oh, this is just a more interesting version of building standard decks. Then it was cube, right? Because it's like, okay, now what if I built like 500 card commander deck that did something even more convoluted and interesting? Also, designing my own cards. That's been a huge part of Magic as well. I really like making custom cards and been doing it for a while now. So
Oh, cool.
that's been my focus in Magic. I've played on and off, for however many years it's been. But yeah, lately a lot of custom cards and a lot of cubing.
So have you built the whole custom cube?
Yeah, a couple.
A couple. Okay.
Some of them have been disastrous. Some of them have been kind of cool. One or two have been decent, I would say. It's tough, but it's really fun and rewarding.
Have you ever put a custom card into one of your normal cubes?
Yes.
Oh,
So just recently, I did the first draft of a cube called the Designer Cube. Basically, it's like a bog standard legacy cube, right? Like all the normal cube staples for the first, 300 cards or so. And then it's like 60 custom cards on top of that. And basically, this is in response to some feedback I've gotten about like how, when you sit down to play like a custom card cube, it's like really overwhelming. There's like a lot you have to read. There's a lot of new mechanics and stuff. It's like very hard, right? And time consuming to like review everything. So I'm like, all right, I want to make custom cards as accessible as possible. And a good way to do that is just like throw them in the most normal cube ever. So
if 12
I
cards
ran
in the
that.
pack are just like Thoughtseize, Lightning Bolt, and then there's like Frazzle Bolt, which like
Yep.
whatever the heck that is. They'll read
Exactly.
one custom card a pack. It's like the
Exactly.
mystery booster card.
You nailed it. Yeah, it's like drafting Modern Horizons 4, kind of, that you didn't read the list ahead of time.
Yeah. And what are some of your hobbies outside of Cuban Magic?
Yeah, my other big one is the guitar. I love playing guitar. I'm always down for a jam session with friends.
Are you a
Great
tapper or a
music.
slapper?
Oh, definitely a slapper.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I've tried to learn the tap thing. I haven't quite mastered it yet. I love to cook. It's another big one. That's usually what I'm doing outside of Magic.
What's your favorite dish you've made lately then?
Lately, I'm trying to make the perfect like Chinese eggplant stir fry.
Ooh,
So just like eggplant, green beans, garlic, oil, Chinese spices, chilies, that kind of thing. In the wok. It's very simple, but surprisingly hard to get right, at least for me.
that sounds good. Ooh. And today we're talking about a pretty interesting cube that when I saw it submitted to Kinetic Cube, I was pretty excited because I was like, ooh, the trading post cube. What does that mean? Tell me about this cube that we're talking about today.
Okay, yeah. So the Trading Post Cube, I first saw Trading Post, whenever it came out, like M12 or whatever. And I tried to play it in standard with like Sun Titan and Mind Flavor, like all the artifacts and Scars of Mirrodin block. And it was honestly pretty bad. It wasn't a very good standard deck, but it was so cool and fun. And I've kind of been in love with Trading Post ever since because it does nothing and it does everything. So I wanted to build a cube around it because I think it's a card that a lot of people like. Like when you mentioned Trading Post, to people are like, "Oh, Trading Post, so sick!" Like, but then it's always followed up with like, "But it's so bad. Like I can't put it in any of my cubes, or it just gets cut all the time." So I was like, "All right, well, what if we just made Trading Post like the star of the show? If we built an entire cube around it, such that like you can't ignore it." That's kind of how the idea came about.
And so if people don't know what trading post is, I guess I'll read it off here.
Oh
it's
yeah.
a it's a wordy card. So it's a 4 mana artifact and it has 4 abilities. All of them you have to pay 1 and tap it. So the first one, pay 1 and tap it, discard a card, you gain 4 life, pay 1 and tap it, pay 1 life, create a 0/1 goat, 1 and tap, sacrifice a creature, return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand, or 1 and tap, sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. So this
Yep.
is a funny card in my mind because, like you said, it's a 4 mana artifact that doesn't do anything. And even if you play it with 5 mana, you're paying 4 mana, and then what? You're paying a life and making it 0/1. So it's a 5 mana 0/1. Or so
Yep.
it's a card that's has such a high investment to get out. So if this card was like Retrofit or Foundry, like 1 mana, I can imagine this card being pretty gas. But 4 mana makes it so tough. So what about this card drew you so much to it?
Yeah. Well, first I thought I was like, okay, this card's terrible. But then I noticed how the abilities are like circular. They like feed into each other. You make the goat, and then it gives you a creature like sacrifice to get the artifact back. It just like goes right. And I just thought that was like such a unique opportunity for Magic because if you just like have this thing that lets you exchange basically any resource you have for like any other resource, like that opens up so many possibilities that I'm sure we'll get into. But like I was kind of thinking about engine builder board games a little bit, like stuff like Splendor or Wingspan, that kind of experience. And a big part of that is just like figuring out how to exchange resources, right? There's like a bunch of, different ways in these games that you can do that. And, part of the goal here with Trading Post Cube is like make an engine builder in Magic. And Trading Post is like the perfect vehicle for that because it lets you just at a reasonable rate, but not like game breakingly so. It lets you exchange resources for whatever you need.
It kind of reminds me of Ryan Trahan's video on YouTube that he like started with a penny and then he tried to trade up to like a car.
Oh yeah.
So you discard a card to gain the life, then you pay the life that you gain to get a goat, and then you sack that goat to get an artifact. Then you sack that artifact, and then you draw a card. And you paid only 8 mana to draw a card, and it's so powerful.
Well, I mean that's the thing, right? Like I think some people come into Trading Post Cube and they're a little skeptical of it. They're like, I'm just gonna draft like an aggro deck or whatever. I'm just gonna ignore Trading Post and like not activate it. And then it's really hard to resist the temptation, especially, when the whole cube's built around it, right? Like every single card does something with Trading Post. So it is a lot more powerful than it looks.
And you've definitely made it a lot more powerful in a very unique way, I think, because I think a big problem with the card is like we talked about the 4 mana upfront investment.
Yeah.
Because then you have to pay so much more mana after that. But in this cube, each player starts the game with a copy of Trading Post in play, and it has hexproof, indestructible, and it's basically meant to be unremovable. So it reminds me a lot of something like the Cascade cube, where each player gets an emblem of Maelstrom Nexus. What inspired you to add this rules modification for it to make it so playable?
Yeah, so I think the original idea was Trading Post is your commander, so it like started the command zone, but then quickly ran to the problem like, oh man, like 4 mana is just like way too much to pay for this.
Nobody's still going to want to cast it, even if it was a companion.
Yes. So then I made it an emblem again because like cube people in general, like to varying degrees, like seem to be bought into the idea of like rules modifications being emblems. There's like prior art for this, so figured like, okay, a Trading Post emblem's cool. Ignoring for a moment that like emblems can't actually like tap, I don't think, in like the rules. So that's like a little weird, but people figure it out. It's not a big deal. That worked reasonably well. I think the choice to make it impossible effectively to interact with Trading Posts is a good one. It's, I would rather people like go all in on Trading Posts, right? Like the point is to use this weird card. People should be able to confidently build their deck around it and not have to worry about like it getting removed. Because if you could remove it, right, everyone's building their deck around it. And suddenly, like if one player's Trading Post gets removed, they're just at like, a huge disadvantage. So hexproof and indestructible on the battlefield was the next step after emblem because I wanted untapped synergy with it, like Voltaic Key and stuff. So you could get like multiple Trading Post activations a turn. That was like the path to it being on the battlefield.
Oh, yeah. And so I guess there's no farewell in the cube that can exile all artifacts.
I don't think there's a way to interact with it. I've read the list a bunch of times. I made some mistakes along the way, but I think right now, yeah, you can't. You can't. You can. Well, I mean, one thing that's kind of funny about this is you can sack Trading Post to itself. So if you want,
true.
if you want to get rid of your own Trading Post, you're free to do so. I wouldn't recommend it, but can be done.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Add Mindslaver so I can take your turn and sack
it. That's actually so sick.
So as we talked about, there's 4 main abilities. And like you said, you've really designed all of the archetypes around the abilities of this card. And looking at the list, I can really see like, for example, the first ability, discard a card, gain 4 life. This cube has Dredge, Madness, things that care about discarding cards. And it also has a life gain theme. It also has pay 1 life, create a goat. And this cube has a go wide theme, a token theme, even some things that care about goats, which I think is pretty funny, or one that I think is really sick is you have the enchantment Muragondra Petroglyphs, which creatures with
Oh
no
yeah.
abilities get +2/+2. And then the third ability, sacrifice a creature, return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. There's definitely a sacrifice theme for creatures and a sacrifice theme for artifacts, which leads us to last ability, sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. So there's a theme for sacrificing artifacts. And there's even a theme for drawing a second card. So it reminds me of when I had Kirby on to discuss the Omnipresent Imposters Cube, where he really was trying to use the whole Buffalo in every single part of the card, make it relevant. And it really has felt like you've done that here.
Yeah, that resonates for sure.
Tell me about the archetypes and how you've put them all together.
Yeah. I pretty much just like read Trading Post like 10 times. I was like, okay, like let's think about everything, off the top of my head that like this card can do. And you covered a lot of them because right, this card can like do so much. I then just went to Scryfall and I spend a lot of time on Scryfall search, I'll be honest, for this cube and other cubes. I like going deep and finding all the weird cards, asking people, on like Discord or other places like for Rex, all this kind of stuff, right? I basically went ability by ability and like found like okay, like every single card in Magic that cares about discard. Like okay, let's just like go through all of them. I really tried to leave no stone unturned here. We can go through each one. So discard a card, gain 4 life. As you pointed out, right? It's actually like two very relevant things. Discard like putting stuff in the graveyard for like madness or and then life gain, which has actually been like really centralizing and some might say like problematic for this cube. Like the fact that you can just gain 4 life for 1 mana is like really strong.
Or life every turn is a lot of life.
It's a lot of life. Yeah, my favorite like aspect of this is there's kind of some like obvious cards here where it's like all right, when you gain life, like you put that many counters on stuff, like kind of like straightforward life gain synergies. There's some kind of more interesting ones too. Like I really like the cards that ask you to just like commit to gaining a lot of life right up front. My favorite example of this is Chalice of Life. It's a 3-mana artifact. You tap it to gain a life, and then if you have 30 or more life, you flip it. So it's a double face card, and it turns into Chalice of Death, which is tap it, target player loses 5 life. So this card asks a lot of you, right? You like turn 1, discard a card to Trading Post, go to 24. Turn 2, discard a card to Trading Post, go to 28. Turn 3, tap out, play Chalice of Life, go to 29. And then turn 4, you're all blind, right? So if you commit super hard to this thing, you have a lot of acts every turn.
Believe it or not, I actually have this in a cube too.
Oh, that's amazing. I
have it in my bulk cube that each player starts at 3 life. So tap to gain a life every turn is pretty good.
Yes. That seems like a great hope for it. And then there's also like this really cool life gain burn deck, like Chalice of Life goes in it, but like Enduring Tenacity, right? Like whenever you gain life, target player loses that much life. That's like a really fun deck to draft. It's kind of like a black based aggro deck where as soon as you can assemble like 2 of those effects, where you're paying 1 mana to deal them 8, like that's when things are going well for you. Make it go. This is like the default one. Like as you kind of mentioned earlier, like whenever you just like have nothing else to do, like everyone just makes it go. Like there's basically no reason not to. 1 life is nothing.
That's like the ability that's like, I got nothing else better to do. I'll make it go. Why not?
Yeah. So that's the ability that tends to have more cards that kind of go in any deck, right? Because everyone's going to end up with goats. So you want kind of just these like generic, like this is like as close to good stuff as you can get, I would say, in this cube. A good example is a Sky Hussar. Kind of a weird card. The text is almost irrelevant. It's like a 5 mana 4/5 with flying out. It doesn't matter. But it has this ability called Forecast, right? So at the beginning of upkeep, you can reveal it and tap 2 untapped white or blue creatures you control to draw a card. And so this is ridiculous with Trading Post, right? Because turn 1, make it go. Turn 2, make it go. Turn 3, upkeep. You have 2 white creatures. And so you just get to draw an extra card every turn. It's amazing. So, and it goes in any deck. Arguably too good. I might cut it actually. But, so there's a lot of like kind of goat good stuff, but also like really focused goat decks. So you mentioned Muragondra Petroglyphs. Like you can get rewarded if you take all the like emblems and stuff and just like go wide with goats. So yeah, goats are sweet. And then the other 2 abilities are, mostly artifacts. You need both artifacts that can sacrifice themselves so that you always have an artifact in the graveyard to activate the third ability. It's like sacrifice a creature, return something. So like
Oh yeah, it's
Mishra's
not up to
Bauble.
one artifact. You need to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
one.
You need to have one. So like Mishra's Bauble, like first pick in this cube, like every time. It goes in every deck and it turns on that third ability consistently. And then also you want artifacts that sacrifice themselves for value. Like Retributive Wand is my favorite. It's like a 3 mana artifact that does some stuff, but the main thing it does is when it's put into the graveyard, it deals 5 damage to something.
That's pretty
So
powerful. I mean, you just sack it, you draw a card, and you lightning axe. That's pretty good.
it's not bad, yeah. Some of the weird things about this is like, for the third ability, you have a lot of creatures that want to be sacrificed. That was really fun to find. Like Reform is one of my favorites. It's like a
Yeah.
4 mana 0/1 that when it dies, it becomes a 3/3. And when that dies, it becomes a 6/6. And when that dies, you get a 9/9. So this is like you just keep sacrificing it to trade posts to like level up your guy. You've got leave the graveyard synergy, like Tevil's Judgment, because you're moving artifacts around. People don't pick up on this instantly, but like the threaten effects are really good with this ability. Like red, Loki has like the best removal in this cube because you just like active treason and then you have a sack outlet all the time.
Or even better,
Um,
goat nap to be able to steal a
yeah.
goat and make it +3/+0. Goat
Oh
tribal.
yeah. Yeah, Goat Nap and Goat Napper are in this cube, which is pretty sweet. I could talk all day about these abilities. This is the heart of the cube, right? It's like all these weird cards. My favorite part of this cube is watching people draft, actually, because like there's this like head movement that's happening, right? They like read a card, look down at the playmat, read Trading Post again, look it back at the card, and go, oh. I really enjoy that part. Like, I want every single card of this cube to beg the question, like, what does this do with Trading Post?
And you mentioned it briefly, but I think it's really an interesting part of this cube that because you built the whole cube around Trading Post, sure, that gives you a lot of things to go off of in your design, like a lot of really cool synergistic archetypes or play patterns that you can put in. But also, it can have sort of downsides for cube design in some ways, and which is, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
is pretty interesting. Like you said, the gain for life every turn. That can create problems. For example,
Yes.
how does an aggro deck ever beat gaining 4 life every turn? Tell me about the process of a card that it's so sweet in so many ways that you built around it, but it can also create issues in gameplay.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple issues that Trading Post introduces. One, yeah, the life gain. Aggro is really tough when you can gain 4 life every turn. You have to like do aggro in different ways, and there's a couple that you'll see in the list. One kind of funny one is poison, right? Like there's a couple poison cards in here, just like
I saw
okay, ignore
that.
their life. I might try to put some mill in at some point too. It's like another way to just like get people in a way that doesn't care about their life. But you also have stuff like Kavu Predator. Whenever they gain life, put that many counters on it. I mean, just straight up, like life gain is like so good in this cube that I've had to put in stuff like Giant Cinder Maw, 4/3 trample for 3. That just says like players can't gain life. You need stuff like that. You also need to punch through goats, right? As we said, like everyone's making a goat every turn. Like Questing Beast is really is good in this cube, right? Because of the many things it does, one of them is that daunt ability, right? Like Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So you'll see a lot of stuff like that. Evasion is really key. Like Wonder is like one of the best cards in this cube because hey, you've got Trading Posts, you can just discard it immediately, give all your stuff flying. But like otherwise, yeah, the board gets really gummed up between like goats and also just like a lot of artifact decks push you toward making a lot of game objects. Those two things together kind of contribute to aggro not really being great. The one exception to this, I would say, is like there are some threats that are just so busted that they still punch through. Like Corey Steelcutter is in this cube as like one of the better aggro plans. You could just play Corey Steelcutter; it's still good.
That gives trample around the goats.
Oh yeah. One thing I'm considering is just giving up on aggro entirely. I think just this is a cube for the wheel spinners. This is for the combo people. We don't need aggro in this cube, maybe. So we'll see.
Yeah, it was really unique looking at this cube because I feel like I've never really seen a list that has so many hate pieces and they almost feel like they're necessary. Like, for
Yeah.
example, Plague Drone. If an opponent would gain life, they lose that much life instead. Or another really interesting one is Grand Abolisher, which says your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities on your turn. So it stops them from being able to make the goat and then sack it right away to get value, or gain life on your turn, or harsh mentor. If an opponent would activate an ability of an artifact, creature, or land, they deal 2 damage. So many cards that feel like without them, the gaining life or the making so many tokens would almost become problematic. Tell me
Yeah.
about the deck building decisions and the draft decisions surrounding all these hate pieces too.
Yeah. So this is one of the tough parts about this Rainbow's cube, right? It's like I don't think this is the kind of cube that people want to play as like one of two cubes that they play all the time. I think it's like kind of a once in a while spice things up. Let's play Trading Post cube. People are mostly going to be like going into it kind of blind, and because of that, like they probably don't know just how like game breaking Trading Post actually is. So I'm strongly considering putting like some sort of note in the primer that's like, hey, like on the one hand, I want drafting to be open ended. Like as I said before, I think one of the coolest parts about this cube is drafting and like having so many different options laid out for like how to use Trading Posts and how to combine them in interesting ways. But like still, maybe there's this like minimal amount of information you need to know, which is like if you're playing an aggro deck, like you need to have a plan for your opponent gaining life. You need to have a plan for them like making goats every turn, because you're not really going to be able to win otherwise. And I think that's probably obvious to a lot of people, especially like if they play cube all the time, but like not everyone certainly, right? So like some sort of just like information, I think, avoiding traps, right? Like cards that you would think would be really good in this cube but aren't. I think that kind of thing is important. Grand Abolisher is actually really funny that you mentioned. Like, I strongly considered having also, like, in addition to starting the game with Trading Posts in play, also players start with the Grand Abolisher in
Oh,
play.
really?
Um, because, yeah, like, removal is so bad in this cube otherwise. Because, like, if you try
Yeah.
to kill a creature, they just sacrifice it in response to Trading Posts. You really need to be, like, very careful about using removal and interacting with your opponent, which is why a lot of this interaction is like stacks, right? So it's like, okay, like targeted removal is like kind of bad here. So we're doing engine builder gameplay, right? Each player kind of faces off, best engine wins. And one of the decisions you make in those kind of games is like, all right, am I investing my own engine or am I slowing down my opponents? And, so like stacks kind of fits into that as like it's hard to interact with your thing. And I don't want to make it impossible, right? I want you to build the engine and do the cool thing, but I want to make it a little painful, right? That's kind of why I have, some of those cards.
Yeah, that's really interesting about making it really hard to interact. That's true because, yeah, you're right. If I go to Swords to Plowshare your creature in response, you can just pay 1 mana, sacrifice it, and return an artifact from the graveyard to their hand. And then they can do that over and over again and get so much value.
That's another kind of issue with this cube that I've been trying to address, which is like there's a lot of like repetition, like a lot of the things that you'll be doing is like setting up these loops with Trading Post. And if things are going well, this is like if you've ever played like Wingspan, it's like exactly like this, right? Like you're targeting a point where you're like doing the same thing every turn, but each time you do it, you're adding like a new payoff basically and like a new output. Each iteration of the loop gets you more and more resources and just goes bigger and bigger. I think some people vibe with that, but a lot of people really don't, right? So like if you're not down to just like cycle the same artifact a bunch of turns in a row, then you're probably not going to enjoy this cube.
I heard a lot of great feedback about this cube at Kinetic Cube. Like a lot of people telling me it was really fun, really unique. But another thing I heard, which we are kind of getting to, is going to time.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yep.
if people are gaining 4 life every turn, they're sacking all the time, be able to loop things over and over again. Plus, a lot of the archetypes kind of lean into that, which we'll talk about more
Yes.
after, like things like life gain archetype or an aristocrat's archetype that is kind of generically trying to go grindy in general. What are the steps you've taken to try and speed up games? And also on top of that, we talked about it, which I thought was really interesting. Like you just mentioned, Grand Abolisher, the fact that you can at any point activate this. And it's almost like, okay, I'll take an action. And then the opponent has to think, all right, now is it the time to activate? Because if I activate this Trading Post, they might have a response. And I don't
Yes.
want to go shields down. And, oh, they're killing my thing. Should I not sacrifice in case they have another removal spell? It
Yep.
feels like there's a lot of thinking in this cube.
Yeah, definitely. This is not like the cube that you play at like 9 p.m. After like a full day of drafting at some event or whatever. Like, yeah, I think you want to be like fresh and locked in. I think with this cube at events in particular, it's kind of tricky because on the one hand, like this cube is like pretty controversial, I would say. Like the people who like it really like it, right? And the people who don't like it really don't like it. A really big event, in theory, is like a really good spot for that because people will like self-select into,
They can put on
this
their
kind of
avoid
cube.
list there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they can do the opposite. On the other hand, this is a cube I think that rewards like playing it more than once, right? Kind of knowing the tricks, knowing what to avoid, and
Oh, this
also
is
like at
definitely a cube.
events.
I can imagine being like, I have no idea what I just did. Let's run it back.
Yeah, yeah, I get that a lot. And yeah, at events, like you've got to keep the clock moving, right? Your rounds are only as fast as the slowest single match per cube, right? This is what's tricky about speeding up the cube because one thing I thought originally was like, okay, let's just add a bunch of aggro cards, right? And that's cool. Like the two players who draft aggro, they finish on time, no problem. But it's the two like grindy life gain decks, right? That like don't really have a win condition that face off each other. And so the aggro players are just sitting there waiting for that match
Oh,
to go.
wow. The aggro decks will go faster, but then you still can't go to the next round until the other two other games are finished. So it almost
Exactly.
creates more of a problem than a good because now there's just people waiting around. It's like, well, I wish that my game was that grindy, cool one that they're having over there.
Yes. And that's the thing, right? Some people do want that grind. Some people do not. I think honestly, like my answer to this question is a bit of a cop out, but I think like I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. Like I think this is a cube that is to be played at times when you want to like take it slow, and you want to just fully relish in the wheel spinning and not worrying about like finishing each round in 50 minutes. However, I do have actual answers to this because I've thought about this a lot. I think one kind of crazy one is adding power. You know what never goes to time? Vintage cube. So just make vintage trading posts. I think that actually could be really sick. My original draft of this cube, it was really, really broken. And one of the things I wanted to do was highlight kind of weird cards. And so the really powerful version had a lot of really powerful vintage cube staples. So it wasn't really hitting that mark, but it didn't have the time problem. Games move fast. You won quickly. So I think if I was really worried about time, I would add in just more powerful cards. The downside to that is if you're if you're playing like Boros aggro, right? You're not gonna like actually want to spend time making goats. Like at a certain power level, trading post becomes irrelevant. But I'm not too worried about that because you don't have to play like the max power things, right? You don't need like broadside bombardiers in here to get the point across. You just more powerful cards.
I've
And
had a
also
kind of
like
similar situation in some ways with my proliferate cube. People have told me recently that the
yeah.
cube has gotten to be pretty powerful at this point. One piece of advice that Sam gave me was, Ian, is the actual proliferating too slow for this cube? Like, is the
Yeah.
power level so high that spending the time to proliferate not good enough anymore? And I feel like that's an interesting question. Like, yeah, you could speed up the gameplay and put in two mana five fives and time walks and broken stuff, but then are people even doing what the cube wants to be doing at that point? Like, is trading posts, like you said, not even good enough?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I tend to think that players will not ignore free value when given it. And trading post, it's always on the battlefield. You're not spending all of your mana every turn, even in like Power Max Vintage Cube and stuff. So like I do think there would be some trading posts, but I think there would be less of it. And part of the appeal of this cube for me is yeah, these like weird cards that no one's ever heard of, right? So I think you would lose some of that.
I
There's
think that's
also
a
some
really
small
interesting piece of
yeah.
advice that you said also that I think that I sometimes lose the plot or I see people questioning their design choices. And, if you built a cube to do something, it can sometimes just be best to lean into it. Like if this cube is meant to be grindy and it's meant to be trading post and little trinkety things, that's what the cube is. And if that kind of gameplay goes late, then it goes late.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather it be nine people's first favorite thing than 100 people's ninth favorite thing.
Yes.
Quote from some musical that my girlfriend showed me. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, like just lean into the thing. But yeah, I mean, with the time thing, there's a couple other things. Like I cut all the fetch lands, and there's like a
I
lot of little
noticed that.
things you can do. Reduce shuffling, reduce the amount of cards that like take a long time to resolve. Stuff that has like a million triggers that you have to like make a bunch of decisions for. Like you want some of that, but I mean, Trading Post already is like asking you to make a pretty meaningful decision every turn. Like you don't need that much more to get the experience. Pure game objects, I think, speeds things up. Like it physically takes time, right, to like go dig through your token pile or like draw the goblin on the infinite token or whatever. Like that all kind of adds up, you know. It also makes combat harder when you've got, a million things on the ground. So like making sure there's not a million tokens, I think helps a lot. I think the last idea I had for this was like making sure if the engine is spinning, that the output of that engine is like killing your opponent. It's not like just drawing more cards or they're like obviously, you gotta draw cards, you gotta spin the wheels, but like the payoff should quickly, be like damage, a win condition. Less like make a bunch of 1/1s. That drags the game out, but damage actually ends the game.
Yeah, that's a really interesting piece of advice that I've definitely noticed when I've made cubes before too, that it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going off. The engine's firing on all cylinders. And then at the end of the turn, I'm like, I guess at the end of that turn that took 8 minutes, I drew 3 cards and passed. Like,
Yeah.
what actually happened?
Yeah.
Make
Yeah,
sure that your cube people are actually going toward a goal of winning.
yes. I think the best cubes of this kind, you want every game action and decision to matter, or at least the vast majority of them. And I think it's really hard to both take a lot of actions and have each one matter. So like the more actions you're taking, the more likely it is that the individual ones start to matter less. So I think just making sure every decision you're making actually has a meaningful effect on the game is an important part of this. I've tried to do with this list, but I think there's still improvements to be made there.
Going back to the archetypes in the cube, one thing that I really like about this cube that you've done is you've included some archetypes that I feel like in other cubes are kind of hard to pull off or are pretty unique, but it's almost like the trading post is like an A plus B combo with something else. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I don't see life gain as a theme in many cubes because I feel like it's hard to consistently be able to gain life and also have something that's winning you the game as you're gaining the life or doing something proactive like we were talking about. But
Yep.
because the trading post can gain you life every single turn and a pretty substantial amount of life, a lot of these life gain payoffs actually do become pretty powerful, like something like Lathiel, the Bounteous Dawn, that says at the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, distribute that many 1/1 counters among other target creatures. In other cubes, it can be hard to gain more than 1, 2 life here and there, and then it can feel like this card's not doing much. But because this card can consistently, every turn, put 4 counters, it becomes so much powerful.
Yeah.
Or something like a madness theme. Sometimes you draw the madness cards, but none of the enablers, or vice versa. And it's pretty cool that you don't actually have to play many discard outlets, if any, and you can just focus on the madness cards. And then when you draw the madness card, you're going to be able to use it because you'll always have the discard with the trading post. Tell me
Yes.
about that design space, being able to put in themes that often can be hard to pull off, but because trading post always gives you the enabler, you can just kind of do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is one of the strongest selling points of this cube, right? That it gets to play these decks that really just don't really exist at all in some cases and in some other cubes. Life Gain's a great example. Life Gain has been nerfed after every single draft of this cube. Like you mentioned Lathiel, that's like the 6th best life gain payoff. Like there's so many just completely busted ones.
Yeah, like I saw on your list of cards that have been cut, a card that I actually had as a kid that I always thought, how do you make this card work? It seems terrible. Angelic Accord, 3 and a white,
Yeah.
enchantment at each end step. If you gain 4 more life this turn, you get a 4/4. How do you actually gain 4 life consistently? I had it in my Trostani commander deck, which is pretty sick because you get the 4/4, you gain you 4 life, and then you get another 4/4. But other than that, is like, what do you do with this card? And so it seems like it's so perfect for this cube. It's like built for this cube, and then it like turns out to be too good.
Exactly. Yeah. Because yeah, there's this whole list of like kind of like cards that are like obvious. Like, of course, this is good with Trading Post, and basically the rule is like the first cards you think of that are good with trading posts are completely busted in this cube, and I've pretty much all been cut at this
Yeah, we
point.
can go over some of those now. Like, for example, Earthcraft that says one in green, tap an untapped creature control, untap target land. It's like, oh, this is great. You're going to be making goats every turn. And then you realize this is a little too great. Or
Yes,
something
so
like a Skull Clamp. Oh, I'm
yep.
going to Skull Clamp all the goats and draw the cards. And it's like, that seems a little too good. How did you
Yes,
determine which cards were too good?
I mean some of them are just obvious. Like I still have not actually play tested Skull Clamp,
Yeah, that
except
seems like
like
the
one.
number one card to avoid.
Yeah, um, yeah. Any of the colorless cards that like go in every deck that are really good, like Currency Converter was like
Yeah.
extremely messed up here because you're just discarding something every turn. All the life gain payoffs, like the one that was just beyond the pale was Assemble the Entmoot. It's a 4 mana enchantment from like the Lord of the Rings Commander set. Does a bunch of stuff. It's like tree folk you control have reach or whatever, and then you sacrifice it and make 3XX tree folk creatures, or X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So for 5 mana, you just make three 4/4s.
It's 4 mana.
Four and
Oh,
then
and
five to activate
yes.
the trading post.
And it also puts
And
a
then
reach count on all of them.
oh yeah, yeah, and they have reach for some reason. So
It's so weird
like
because the enchantment says creatures you control have reach, but then this also puts a reach counter on them. It's like they
uh,
really want to make sure they have reach.
yeah, I don't know what's going, but yeah, that one. Oh, a Johnny Nakano Pariah was one
I
that I
hate this
tried.
card. Awful
Um,
card. I can't
yeah, I
stand
mean,
this card.
so it's always busted, right? And it's even more busted when you can just sacrifice the cat immediately to trading post. That card was nonsense.
Why is Scavenging Ooze too good?
Okay, yeah, great question. The instant speed graveyard hate, basically, that's repeatable. I just found like any deck that's trying to do the like artifact recursion wheel spinning stuff just gets completely shut down by these cards. And I don't think that was like a bad thing initially, but what I found is like that deck is actually like one of the weaker decks in the cube because it's one the deck that everyone's trying to draft, like for the most part, right? Like it's kind of the default, like, all right, what do I do with trading posts? I do artifact stuff. So like you always get like 3 to 5 players drafting artifact stuff. So everyone's deck ends up a little worse. And also, that's one of the decks that has the most difficulty closing out the game. It's really grinding. It takes a while to actually build up to a win condition and assemble all the pieces. So I didn't want this like extremely efficient hate piece for this deck that already like needed some help. So I cut all of the, the Scavenging Ooze, Lion Sash, like all that stuff. Keen-Eyed Curator. Yeah,
Why
things
is
like that.
Emrakul too good?
Great, great question. So
Because it stops milling out?
we haven't talked about the Polymorph deck yet, which is
Oh,
one of my
yeah. I want
favorite.
to talk about that. Tell me about that deck.
Yeah, so the Polymorph deck, one piece of feedback I've got is the Polymorph deck is too good. Because yeah, it's really good this cube, right? For those who don't know, right, Polymorph is a 4 mana enchantment. It says destroy target creature. Its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Put that into play, shuffle the rest or whatever. So the thing you do with this is you don't use it on your opponent's creatures usually. You put it in a deck with like 3 creatures of your own, right? Emrakul, for instance. And Trading Post makes a goat, right? So you make a goat at turn 3 end step, and then turn 4 you untap, polymorph your goat, and like maybe the only creature in your deck is Emrakul, right? Emrakul on turn 4. You don't get the cast trigger because polymorph's just putting into play, but you do have a 15/15 flying trainable annihilator, very hard to kill. You're probably going to win that game. The thing that made Emrakul specifically way too good, even in addition to all that, is like one of the problems with polymorph decks is like what happens when the big creature is in your hand, right? Like if it's stuck in your hand, you're not going to be able to do anything with polymorph, right? You're not going to be able to polymorph into it. Well, again, Trading Post provides the answer, right? Emrakul, you can just discard it. You can discard the Emrakul to Trading Post and it gets shuffled back in. So like Emrakul is just complete nonsense in the polymorph
deck. That's interesting. Yeah, speaking of those A plus B combos, that's another one that this cube really allows is most cubes, it's very hard, if almost impossible, to like make polymorph work because you have to have small creatures plus the big ones, and then it becomes a crapshoot of, well, I hope I don't polymorph into one of my other small ones. Or you have to have a deck filled with instants and sorceries that make tokens, and then only a few big creatures, which makes it really hard too. But because polymorph lets you make that goat every turn, you only need the big creatures, and then the polymorph, it's like a one card combo. It's so powerful.
Yep. And usually what I see people do is you play like a control deck, right? You play like Jeskai, like a bunch of the white sweepers and like counter spells and the threaten effects, right? That's the best removal of the cube pretty much. So you're playing those. And then yeah, you have polymorph effects. The good thing about polymorph is it's relatively easy to balance because it's only as powerful as the creatures that you get to polymorph into.
My favorite one is Astral Dragon because you make more copies of your trading post.
Yes, that has been that's been a funny rules thing because people always ask like, okay, if I put Astral Dragon into play and make another trading post, does it have hexproof and indestructible?
Oh,
Because 3/3 hexproof indestructible, right? Pretty good.
yeah. If people don't know what Astral Dragon is, it's a funny one. 6 blue for a 4/4 dragon flying. When it enters, create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-creature permanent, except they're 3/3s and have flying. So
Yeah.
even though it has hexproof is in Shroud. You can target your own.
Oh yeah. So rules as written for Trading Post Cube is that you start the game with Trading Post on the battlefield, and it has a hexproof and indestructible counter on it. It doesn't just inherently have those keywords. So Astral Dragon plus Trading Post does not work because you don't copy the counters when you make the 3/3 dragon. That isn't obvious to people. So I on the box I've like written this is like one of the things you should know for like judges or anyone playing the cube. Like Astral Dragon and Trading Post does not work. I might just cut Astral Dragon. It's very, very sweet, I agree, but it's that Sphinx of Steel Wind are the two kind of problematic polymorph targets at this point.
It would be pretty funny to put Nesting Grounds in the cube. So
What's Nesting Grounds?
Nesting Grounds is a land that you can pay 1 and tap it to move a counter from a permanent you control onto another target permanent. So you can move the indestructible counter onto something else or the hexproof counter.
Oh yeah, all right. That's instantly going in the maybe board. Yeah, that's extremely sweet. I didn't think of that. Nesting Grounds. Yeah, I mean, there's risk, right? Like giving up your trading post counter, it might be worth it. If it like hexproof and indestructible is a big game.
Yeah. What have been some of your favorite decks or plays you've seen in the cube?
Oh yeah, okay. There are like 2 or 3 strategies that I think are especially cool. In addition to polymorph, which I like a lot that we already talked about. One is a deck that I've just been referring to as like the Black Fatties deck, where basically it's like these black creatures that interact with Trading Post in like a really unique way that kind of results in a giant creature on the battlefield. So, for instance, Scourge of Neltoth. It's a 6/6 flyer for 7, but it has this ability like you may cast it from your graveyard by paying black and sacrificing 2 creatures instead of playing its mana cost. So this is amazing with Trading Post, right? Because you just turn 1, make a goat, turn 2, make a goat, turn 3, discard Scourge of Neltoth, pay black, sacrifice the 2 goats, put it into play, right?
Yeah.
So you've got that.
It's such a curve. It's like built for that.
Yeah, exactly. Skurzdag High Priest is another good one. It's a 1/2 for 2. It has Morbid. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. Put a 5/5 black flying demon into play, but you can only activate if a creature died this turn. So like the play that everyone seems to come up with this, which is really funny, is like turn 1, make a goat. Turn 2, play Skurzdag High Priest. Turn 3, make a goat, and then play like Walking Ballista for 0 or something. That's like one of the easier ways to just get a Morbid trigger, and then activate the High Priest to make a 5/5. So there's like a couple things like that. Shadowgrange Archfiend has like Madness, 2 and a black, pay 8 life, you get an 8/4 into play.
That card is so powerful.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good in this cube. Torgar, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice any number of creatures. It costs 2 less for each creature sacrifice this way. So giant black creature. So I really like that deck, like that you just take all of those really early and just ask your question, like, can you beat this giant creature on turn 3? And the answer is often no. My favorite deck in the cube, though, not close, is the Lich's Mastery deck, which is just so sweet. So okay, Lich's Mastery. 3 black, legendary enchantment, hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each one life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. And then when Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. There's also like Marina Vendrell's Grimoire in here, which does something similar. You pay, 1 mana, discard a card, gain 4 life, draw 4 cards. It's busted. So Thassa's Oracle's in this cube, but people are always asking, like, what's Thassa's Oracle for? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And this is what you're supposed to do with it. You play blue-black Lich's Mastery deck with Thassa's Oracle
and you
just
win like
draw your
turn
whole deck.
36.
Yeah, which is very viable in this cube as it turns. So I love the Lich's Mastery deck. I think it's so cool. That's another great example of like, it's a card that's like really hard to make work in most cubes, but it works here.
Lich's Mastery is technically a way to make your opponent lose their trading post.
Great point.
They could exile a permanent, their trading post they control. I broke the cube.
I feel like you're sacrificing lands before you're sacrificing your trading post.
Probably.
But yeah,
you did mention it, but I really like one thing that you did in the cube too, how it almost feels like some of the abilities of trading post, you've made archetypes that kind of use them together. Like, for example, you mentioned it, but Shadowgrange Archfiend, which is, if people don't know this card, 6 and a black for an 8/4. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures you control, and you gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures sacrificed this way. And then Madness, 2 and a black, and pay 8 life. So it's pretty cool because you're discarding it, and it's a pretty high cost, pay 8 life to be able to discard it. But because you gain 4 life, it almost is like working to make that 8 life not feel as bad. And it feels like you've done that many ways in this cube. Kind of the abilities are discard a card, gain 4 life. So it's all in one line. Make these combined abilities almost work together.
Yes. Yeah. Some of my favorite cards fall into this category for sure. One of my favorite cards in this cube, and the one I've seen a lot of people do cool things with, also one that a lot of people complain about because it's a little ridiculous, is Ratchet Field Medic. So strap in. This has a lot of text. It's a transformer.
Oh man, words for days on this card.
Yeah, double face. It has more than meets the eye for 1 and a white. Play it for another cost, like already flip on the back half. But the main power, and this is the front half, it's a 2/4 life link. And it says, whenever you gain life, you may convert Ratchet. When you do, return target artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you gain this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, and it does some other stuff on the back. It doesn't matter. This is really cool trading post because you discard the card from your hand to gain life as like part of the cost, right? So like, let's say you discard some 4-mana artifact, Clock of Omens, right? You discard your Clock of Omen to Ratchet. So it's in the graveyard. The ability resolves, you gain the 4 life, and then whenever you gain life, you can return an artifact of 4 mana value or less. So it's basically like a weird like Mishra's Workshop. Essentially, it just like lets you put these artifacts into play for cheap. It's really cool. People do some wacky stuff with this card. And yeah,
that's a perfect example. That's sick.
Yeah, I really like these cards that fit into a lot of different decks and kind of encourage you to have like a bunch of different synergies.
And how about we jump into a pack 1 pick here?
Sick, let's do it.
All right, I'll read off the pack. 15-card pack. We got Sky Hussar, which is the one that we talked about. 3 white, blue, 4/3 flyer. When it comes into play, untap all creature control, but it has the forecast ability, the most important part. You can tap 2 untap white creatures and reveal it from your hand to draw a card during your upkeep. We have Vengeful Tracker. 1 red for a 2/2. Whenever an opponent sacrifices an artifact, it deals 2 damage to them. Speaking of those hate cards that make the game not go 1,000 years. We got Dragon Skull Summit, black-red check land. Scourge of Neltoth, which is the card we talked about that can come back from the graveyard by paying black, and sacking 2 creatures. 6/6 flyer. Displays Dinosaurs. I think this card is really cool. 5 green, 7/7. As a historic permanent enters the battlefield under your control, it becomes a 7/7 dinosaur in addition to its other types. That's such funny wording. As a historic permanent enters. Then we have Containment Construct. 2-mana artifact, 2/1. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that from your graveyard. If you do, you may play it. That's really good. Mirror Retriever. 2-mana artifact, 1/1. When it is put into a graveyard from play, return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. Crib Swap. 2 and a white. Changeling, Shapeshifter, Tribal Instant. Remove target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 shapeshifter with changeling. This card is so funny when I saw this. Hand of Justice, 5 and a white for a 2/6. You can tap 3, target white creatures you control to destroy any creature. I mean, if you can get some goats, this card's going nuts. It's destroy a creature every turn.
Yeah.
That
Busted.
feels like something from a Scryfall search. How would you have ever found this card?
Absolutely.
We got Golgari Grave Troll, 4 and a green. Enters a 1/1 counter for each creature in your graveyard. You can remove a 1/1 counter from it to regenerate it. But most importantly, it has Dredge. Dredge 6. Hedge Maze, blue-green Surveil Land enters tapped. Enduring Vitality, 1 green, 3/3 Vigilance. That gives your creatures tap to add 1 mana of any color. When it dies, it comes back as an enchantment. Divergent Transformations, which is another one of those cool polymorph cards. 6 and a red for an instant in red, but has Undaunted, so it really costs 1 less, so it's 5 and a red, really. Exile 2 target creatures. For each of those creatures, controller reveals cards on top of a library until they reveal a creature and puts them out on the battlefield. So it's double polymorph. And then we have Rafine's Tower, Esper Triumph, and then finally, a good old Ornithopter, 0/2 for 0 flying. Shout out to the 100 Ornithopters cube. What do you think of this pack?
A lot of people compare this one to, actually, So 100 Ornithopters is another cube where, you look at the list and you constantly have to have the gimmick in mind. You look at every card and you're like, okay, how does this interact with Ornithopter or whatever, right? It's kind of the same with this cube. It's how does this interact with trading posts for every card? I've gotten that one a lot.
Have to make a version of this cube that the only way to win is with trading post.
Oh, good luck. As we've established, it's quite hard to actually kill people with this thing.
It's already hard enough.
Yeah.
What do you think of this pack so far?
This is a sweet one. I mean, I think it's cool that some of the cards that we've highlighted are in it.
That worked out well.
Yeah. What are you taking? I don't want to reveal my opinion as the cube designer before you reveal yours.
There's a few cards in here that I'm looking at especially. I think that Enduring Vitality seems really good, just producing a ton of mana. Same with Containment Construct, just a colorless card that's going to get you so much value. But I want to take Divergent Transformations and go for that polymorph deck. That just seems sick. I want to turn 2 goats into Wheel the Displacer Dinosaurs and put in the Hand of Justice into play and start blowing up some creatures. I want to play the polymorph deck. So I think I'm probably on Divergent Transformations. If that's wrong, sue me.
No. I mean, I maybe implied that there are wrong answers here. I don't think there are. I think there's
I think that people might say, yeah, that's the wrong answer.
So, okay. I don't think Divergent Transformations is wrong. Like I said earlier, the polymorph deck is one of the strongest decks in this cube. And
there's even goats in the art.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that until just
There's
now.
Sheep and goats. It's perfect.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's fantastic. If you're not reviewing the list ahead of time, right? You're not necessarily going to know that the polymorph deck exists. There's a huge advantage to getting into it early, pack 1, right? Because you start cutting stuff before someone else, sees 5 packs and figures out, okay, there's a polymorph deck in here. I'm going to start. So yeah, I'm looking at Divergent Transformation 2, especially because, Displaced Dinosaurs is kind of a medium polymorph target, I would say. It's not bad. It's not the best.
It's so funny.
It's so sick. Yeah, it's what you want to do with this is you wait until you can polymorph into it and then immediately play Chromatic Star or whatever.
Or get 5 treasures or something.
Yeah. So you just you slam it down and just put a bunch of 7/7s into play. It's hard to lose. So I think Divergent Transformations is a strong one. I think Enduring Vitality also, you nailed it. This effect is extremely powerful. There's a couple of different versions of it in the cube. 2 have been cut already for being too good, Earthcraft and Insidious Roots. Enduring Vitality is one of the better ones, though. And just out manaing your opponent is a way to actually win the game, right? One card I've gotten a lot of feedback on is Clown Car.
Clown Car, yes. Want to read that one off?
Okay, so Clown Car, it's an artifact vehicle. It costs X mana. And when it enters, roll X 6-sided die. For each odd result, make a 1/1 white clown robot artifact creature token. Notable that it's an artifact and a creature. And then for each even result, put a +1/+1 counter on Clown Car. So this thing goes bananas with trading post. You make a bunch of artifact creatures, you make the Clown Car, you sacrifice the clown card to trading post or something else. It's in your graveyard, and then all you need to do is sacrifice like one of the clowns to then get it back and do it all over again.
Yeah, this
And
seems
this
insane in the queue.
it's really good, especially with Enduring Vitality, right? Because then each of your clowns taps for mana. So
Oh,
you
and then we
just
can have anger and give them all haste.
yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so
Is
this
that a
thing
loop? Is that like infinite? Oh my gosh.
maybe if you throw Clock of Omens in there, I think you might be able to go infinite because like you use the clouds to untap trading posts to keep recurring it. Like there might be something there, but being able to outmana your opponent means like they're making like one goat a turn, right? But you're making like six clowns a turn. So like mana is really important. Going super wide, Enduring Vitality is very good. I think the third card I'm looking at is Sky Hussar also. I think this is like the sweaty pick, if you will. Like it's just it goes in any deck. It asks nothing of you. It's impossible to interact with for the most part. It's arguably too good. Like you just draw an extra card every single turn. The only way you're losing is like if someone aggroes you out, which as we've established is like very hard. So I think I'm taking all of those. So to win, I'm taking Sky Hussar or Divergent Transformations, but for fun, I'm probably taking Enduring Vitality or maybe the Scourge of Niltoth. That black large creature deck is like pretty sweet. No one takes Hand of Justice. So
I was going to say,
wheel
you're
that
not
for
taking the
sure.
hand of justice?
Hand of
Has
Justice is
power.
very good. No, it's really good. It's playable. Everyone looks at 6 mana 2/6. It's like absolutely not. So, that's like a for anyone listening. This if you ever play Trading Post, don't sleep on Hand of Justice. It's pretty good.
Well, everyone definitely let us know in the comments what you would take from this pack. And if you're taking the hand of justice, then good for you. I mean, I hope you win.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, Jack, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. Anything you want to say here before we wrap up?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, agreed. Very fun. I love Magic and talking about cubes, and this is a great way to do so. Keep it up. I'm going to be listening to more of these going forward. I'm excited to hear the next couple episodes. Shout out Colin Grow, who helped me a lot with this cube, especially like the first event I ran it at was the Vertex in Philadelphia. And I was like, I really don't want this thing to go to time. Like I need to just jam a bunch of games and like figure out how to speed it up. And Colin and others, but particularly Colin, jumped on cockatrice with me and jammed a bunch of games and ironed out a lot of the issues with it. So thank you, Colin.
Shout out to Colin.
We mentioned Containment Construct. Shout out the Containment Construct enjoyers, Cube Group in Boston. If you ever want to play Cube, you know where to find me. So yeah, okay, that's all I got. Thank you, Ian. This is really fun.
And if anyone happens to be in the Connecticut area, we're always looking for more cubers. You can reach out to me on Discord or Blue Sky or something. We always cube in Connecticut every week, usually at Games IRL, my local game store. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow. I hope you all have a good day.